I am Gina Burdell, and I am with the Indiana Talent Network, and we have a partnership with the Governor's Office for Office of Career Connection and Talent. So before I turn it over to Blair Milo, just a few housekeeping details. We're going to have the chat box up during the training, and we have state team members who are going to be monitoring your questions, and they will get back with you during or after the presentation. So once the presentation concludes, you may stay on the line. We will keep it open so you can ask questions for our team members. And there's also going to be a link in the chat box that Brittany Collins is going to drop in. This is going to be our sign-in sheet, and we're going to be taking time later to fill this out. But if you have to drop off of the call early, please go ahead and register now. This link's going to serve for the mailing list for the training session toolkit that will go out following the webinar. So one other thing, please keep yourself muted during the presentation. And with that, I would like to introduce Indiana Secretary of Career Connections and Talent, Blair Milo. Blair?
Right. Well, thank you so much, Gina, for kicking us off this morning, for bringing us together. And thank you to everybody who has joined us here this morning for all of the work that I know that you are already doing in so many ways to serve Hoosiers and serving our communities. And it is certainly a time when so many people are rising to the challenges before us. And so greatly appreciate all the work that everyone is doing, and for you taking some time this morning to visit with us on how we can continue better serving individuals, and particularly thinking about those who have been hit the hardest through the economic crisis that is a result of some of the health crisis elements that we've seen over the past few months. But also some of these tools that we're going to talk about today can contribute towards opportunity for those who may have been in a position that maybe it was exacerbated by some of the economic crisis that we're in right now, but they were already in a spot where they were trying to figure out some of the different steps that they could be taking for some increased economic mobility, economic opportunity overall. So just want to kind of go through today some tools that we have put in place as a part of the Rapid Recovery for a Better Future. That all of this is a partnership, a team effort amongst many different partners, not only from the state level, but across the state, who have spoken into a lot of the information that we put together, resources that we're going to provide to you as well. And the concept behind the train the trainer type of discussion that we're looking to be able to have today is that we can't reach everyone without your help. And so, and we know that you are at the front lines of being able to help connect with individuals, and also have connections to partners who are helping individuals reach different levels of opportunity, to connect to different resources in ways that, again, we in state government can't necessarily do as well as those who are in our communities, with community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, our public libraries, so many different, our chambers, so many different folks who are reaching people on an immediate basis. And so today is about trying to walk through some different pieces that we're hoping you will share, not only with individuals, but really also with all those different organizations in your community, in your region, who are having these really critical conversations with those whom we are working to serve. So I'm going to walk through actually a number of different pieces that we have to bring forward to you today, some of which you may be familiar with, some of which have been adjusted as a part of the rapid recovery efforts, just so that you feel comfortable being able to speak to them, and hopefully then you're able to share that with other people in your community, both with other organizations, other trainers, other leaders who can help convey this information, and ultimately get Hoosiers connected up with the resources that they need, so that they know that we've got their back. So I'm going to talk through a couple different things here. So I mentioned that some of the overview of the efforts A lot of this is driven by the Governor's Workforce Cabinet, which many of you are familiar with, is made up primarily of employers, labor entities, as well as a number of state agencies from the education, the labor, workforce space, family and social services, corrections, all these areas to be able to connect up people with opportunity. We hope people are going to be able to come out stronger than they were before COVID-19, and ultimately looking to be able to help Hoosiers take the next step. And the resources, some of the specific resources with financial components come from some funding that is allocated out of CARES Act dollars that have been allocated to be able to help these individuals take that next step. And just to dive a little bit further into giving you a sense about kind of the thousands of Hoosiers are going to need access to affordable education and training. When we look at some of our unemployment numbers, which certainly we've seen a positive trend from April until May, but looking at just breaking down some of the different numbers of unemployment, so Burning Glass shared with us a breakdown across different genders, race and ethnicity, different educational levels. And so we've seen that we had about a 17% unemployment rate for the month of April. Now, again, we've seen that in a positive trend that's come down to about 13% for the month of May. But I have the numbers broken out for April to be able to show us kind of how there was really a disproportionate impact to different communities across the state. And so as we see those numbers play out, it was about 16.9% female, 17.4% male. If we break that down across different education levels, we saw that that's about 36.8% for folks with a less than high school diploma, 20.6% for those with a high school diploma, and it starts to come down with the higher levels of education. That's why we want to get folks connected up with some of these different types of resources, so that then, we saw for some college it was at 14.6%, and for those with a bachelor's or a graduate degree, it was about 7.9% unemployment. Now, again, those are April numbers, and so they're higher than what the May numbers were. And so we're working our way down. The last element that I do want to draw forward that I think is really critical for all of this group to understand is to see how this is playing out across not only the different education levels I talked about, the genders, but then looking at race and ethnicity as well. And so as we look at how those numbers played out for April, the unemployment numbers, again, 17% across the board. When you break that down by race and ethnicity, we see American Indian and Alaskan, 15.3%, Asians, 17.7%, Black and African American, 34%, Hispanic or Latino, 19.4%, Native Hawaiians, 17.8%, other category was 30%, two or more races was 29.1%, and white was 14.6%. So there's a wide disparity in those numbers as to the kinds of impacts that were felt by different groups. And that's, again, why we want to be very intentional about reaching so many different partner organizations to ensure that we're connecting up with individuals and helping those individuals partner with trusted organizations in their community to be able to access some of these resources. So we also, we have some support in addition to the funds that I just talked about there from Strata that some of you may have been able to see the release that we had, I want to say maybe a week or so ago, that we're very grateful that the Governor's Workforce Cabinet was awarded a $2.25 million grant to support operational elements of our Rapid Recovery Initiative with getting people back to work. And this is through a number of Strata affiliated partnerships. And so you'll see more about this in the days to come, but very thankful to Strata for the support that they're offering. So just wanted to give you a sense of some of the resources that are coming forward into some of our Rapid Recovery Initiative. And ultimately, we're looking to be able to help folks move kind of through the layers here that you see of taking that next step. starting to at wherever individuals are, and we want to meet them wherever they are. And that's, again, why we're trying to partner with as many organizations as possible, help them learn about options that are available from an employment as well as education standpoint, connect to those opportunities, again, through those touch points that they have, whether it be a community leader, pastor or faith leader, an employer who may be helping drive some of this conversation because of maybe changing circumstances that are happening with that employer. And then having that individual not only have that information, but be able to actually take that next step, to feel empowered, to know exactly what the next thing is that they need to be able to do. And again, you'll sense the theme in this of that through this is only accomplished really through the partnerships that we will have across the state of many organizations being able to help convey this message about the different resources that are available to assist someone, and a clear effort or a clear communication around what that exact next step needs to be, especially as we think about somebody who, and for those of us who have been a part of workforce and education conversations for a while, you know, we talk about what it is that leads someone to be able to take a next step in an education path and a career path. Well, we have all of those things still at play, but we also have people who are trying to answer immediate needs, like how am I putting food on the table for my family tomorrow? How am I paying my rent? How am I paying my car payment? All of these different things that we know have really been exacerbated by some of the economic challenges of the pandemic that we've been experiencing. And so it really takes a wraparound network to ensure that we're getting information to all of the partners that need this information, need these resources. So now I'm going to go into talking through kind of the kit that we're looking to be able to provide to organizations that can help share this information. And so this is a quick rundown of a toolkit that we would look to be able to provide to you. I hope everybody can appreciate that we didn't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. And so not all of these are fully developed just yet. And so we're still in the process of finalizing some pieces because we have to fully vet, or I guess put together all of the back end elements to ensure that what we're providing is going to be of greatest benefit to the individuals that we're looking to serve. So part of why Gina mentioned earlier the sign-up sheet that we hope everybody is going to fill out either during the time that we're chatting here now, or we're going to take some time at the end of the session to give folks a chance to be able to fill that information out. We want to make sure we have all of your contact information so that we can follow up with you of getting all of these different products. And what we're looking to be able to provide you are and when we talk about session talking points, that's an idea that if you want to have a webinar that we would be happy to participate in, or if you wanted to host it yourself because maybe it's a message that's heard better from you rather than any of our teammates, that because we just may not be known to some of the different members of an organization or community that you're looking to be able to serve. We want to provide some key talking points to be able to share in any kind of a training session that you might host, whether it's webinar or in person. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that, some sample invitation language that could be utilized to invite people to a training session. Again, you can take or leave whatever of these elements that you would like, but we wanted to make it as easy as possible for any of our partner organizations to be able to help connect with individuals and to help other organizations connect with those individuals. We'll also be providing some handouts that you'll be able to use that are going to have different kind of targeted audiences so that the message is hopefully not overcomplicated. That's certainly been a message that we have heard from partners as we've been building these different tools, is that we don't want to try and put too many things all into one handout that then may make the message feel overwhelming for somebody who is looking to be able to get some assistance. And so those handouts will be for connecting to different partner organizations that has a little bit more background on the outreach effort in general, and the different funding allotments that go with different kinds of programs. But we know that that's probably not of great concern to the individual that is looking for some assistance, whether it's somebody that's looking to be able to connect in with an education opportunity or with employment. And it may not be as relevant to some of the employers that we're looking to be able to serve as well. So we're going to have different resources that are targeted to those different audiences, so that it's not just a blanket, all at once information download for everybody that then becomes kind of challenging to wade through. The other piece that we will provide is an editable PowerPoint. That way, if you're doing some sort of a resource sharing, training, whatever it may be, with partners, with individuals, that you would have access to the slides that you see as relevant. If you wanted to then build your own PowerPoint presentation as to other things that you might be sharing at the time, particularly if you've got community-specific resources that you're talking about, or region-specific resources, then we wanted to make this, again, as easy to use as possible, so that you can pick and choose some of the slides that you may want to be able to utilize, add or subtract as you see fit. Also providing a social media toolkit with some sample posts, some sample different types of graphics to be able to share that would be tailored to different types of social media platforms, be it Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't know if any of you are out there doing dances on TikTok to be able to connect people up to different resources. Whatever it takes, be as creative as you'd like. I don't know that we have sample TikTok things to share. You're going to be on your own for that one. But we want to make, again, this as accessible as possible. And then a key resource that we have for serving individuals is this yournextstepin.org website, which I'm going to talk more about in just a second. And then wanted to give everybody this email address that is monitored by myself and a team to be able to access if you have any questions along the way, anything you're looking for, then wanted to give you a direct email access to be able to reach out to let us know what else we could be providing, any questions, feedback, what have you, all along the way. And so now I want to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the resources that are available to individuals, particularly with the Workforce Ready Grant. Many of you may be familiar with the Workforce Ready Grant already, that it provides 100% tuition to an individual getting a certificate in a high-wage, high-demand area. Those industry areas are business and IT, advanced manufacturing, healthcare and life sciences, transportation and logistics, and then building and construction trades. And so previously that was available to anyone who had a high school diploma, was over the age of 18, and a resident of the state of Indiana. That is now, but it was not eligible for somebody who already had a degree. That has now been opened up to actually serve people who do have degrees, because we know that there are individuals who have been displaced as a result of the changing economy, who have degrees, who may be looking for some short-term types of training to be able to transition into a different type of path. So there are now resources available for those individuals. There are also an additional number of certificates that are included in the portfolio of Workforce Ready grants. And so the team is still working through some of those different components, but I think it's around 100 new certificates that are a part of now this Workforce Ready grant. It's still being provided through Vincennes, through Ivy Tech, as well as partners who are on the eligible training provider list, which is maintained by the Department of Workforce Development. Another key piece is that there's an access to one-on-one financial aid support conversations through InvestEd. We listed the phone number for InvestEd right there too. So if anybody wants to have a direct conversation with someone at InvestEd to talk through what their options are, then they've got a direct resource right there. And that can also be available for any organizations who may be wanting to have a discussion with the team there. And we also have access to some different employment opportunities. Anybody who would have tuned into the governor's press conference yesterday afternoon, he talked about the additional jobs that we're seeing coming forward with new economic development projects that are happening across the state. And so there's connection points to many of these different career areas, and through the yournextstepin.org website that links to a number of the different kinds of resources that we have in place, like Indiana Career Connect. So I just mentioned the yournextstepin.org website. This is a screenshot of the home page. I'm going to attempt to get a little bit fancy here to stop sharing from this static page and share actually from the real page itself, so we can all feel like we're playing along at home. And so here is the page. You'll see that there are 3 different categories that when somebody comes to this page, if they're looking for a new job, education and training, or other supports, that it's easier to navigate all of the different resources that we have here. Now, you all can go and play around with this at your leisure, but I just want to quickly kind of give a little bit of a demonstration so that you can see what's all included here of if they want to find a job, if they want to explore new careers, they want to get career advice, then there are connection points to a number of different resources. Again, you may be familiar with it, you may not be. If you look at if you were to click in to find a job, that connects up to Indiana Career Connect, which basically serves as Indiana's job board. And it is a tool that is able to look across a wide array of websites to be able to scrape postings for positions that employers are hiring for. It's not fully comprehensive, because if somebody hasn't posted a position online in some fashion, then it doesn't have a way to be able to capture that. But as we know, so much of our lives have had to move online because of social distancing requirements and other things that we've had to take action on. Lots more of the postings are now being put online. So it has a very strong representation of a lot of different career opportunities. And it's a really cool tool that somebody can look by geographic region, by different types of career areas, by industry type. They can even look across some different skill areas that they may have that they're interested in. So a lot of flexibility. That's why I'm not going to click into it right now, because that'd take us down a whole different path, and you can go take a look at it later. Explore new careers will take an individual to yet another tool that then helps individuals look at what kinds of opportunities are available in different career areas. They can do some sample surveys that analyze kind of what interests they have, what different types of skill sets they have, how those match up against different industry areas, and help them identify what might be a good fit for them. And there's some videos on there to be able to look through about some sample types of jobs, so that then somebody is able to get a little more awareness around what they could expect if they were to pursue a type of career field. And then we also have the Get Career Advice, which we have a number of partners that are going to be providing career coaching assistance, whether it's from the Ivy Tech team that they have across a number of different regions in the state. We have Skillful Indiana, who is providing different career coaches as a part of their governor's career coaching core. A lot of C's in that one. And so they're going to be providing some resources available with that. Work One has different career coaching services that are part of that. So we'll have a more consolidated version to be able to provide some assistance there. And Invest Ed is a great partner as well, not only from that financial literacy piece that we talked about before for people who are trying to analyze their different education options, but they're also able to provide some different assistance around the career coaching. So that's what's in the employment section. Then we also have, if I'm looking for education and training, then an individual is able to come in here and see, I want to earn or finish my college degree, complete my high school diploma, get a short-term certificate, I don't know. Again, we know that there's a lot of folks who just aren't quite sure what the next step needs to be for them. So that's why we have a big effort to have access to some career coaches, recognizing that those coaches exist in a wide variety of different locations. We want to make that as easy as possible for somebody to find. So it's all right here, should that be the path that they wish to go down. There's information on getting a short-term certification, which we talked a little bit about the Workforce Ready grant already, completing a high school diploma, connecting up with adult education providers, and earning or finishing a college degree. There are resources through the You Can Go Back initiative that the Commission on Higher Education has been a part of for a long time. So again, wanted to make it as easy as possible for somebody to have all these different resources right in a singular place. And then the third area that is on the yournextstepin.org portal is this area of other support. And that's where, as I talked about before, we recognize that, you know, we certainly want to be able to assist individuals with having conversations around what's the next step that they need to take for pursuing education opportunities, employment opportunities. But we also know that there are a lot of challenges that people are facing right now that may be of a more, for them, feeling a more immediate need, such as getting help with unemployment insurance, health care, food assistance, child care, and housing supports. That there was just a discussion yesterday on the governor's press conference around some tuition or some rent assistance that's available with a new program that the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority is going to provide. We know that these resources are really critical for folks to be able to access, but it's just challenging to know where all of these different places are to get access to these different pieces. And so we wanted to provide this asset to be able to connect up with some of those different elements. Now, we're very excited about what this portal provides to an individual in taking that next step. As you probably already experienced as we were walking through there and may have been thinking along the way, for an individual who is struggling with a lot of the different pieces that they're having to make decisions about, and any number of elements that are at play of maybe struggles within their family, maybe they've had some health struggles themselves, a lot of things that people are having to consider right now. And so this portal is valuable for any individual that is able to walk through it, but I think it's really helpful to have somebody who's also able to assist them through this process, so that then they're not feeling left just to their own devices to be able to have to figure all of these pieces out. And so we're certainly looking to be able to improve some of the capability of this site in the next couple of months, so it's even more easy to navigate than it is right now. It could have some features that would do maybe a chat bot, question and answer type of format, so that it is, like I say, that much easier for somebody to utilize. At the moment, it has at least a better way for people to navigate these different resources that are available. These are all state resources that are associated with it. And we know that our communities, that our regions are providing additional types of supports in a number of really creative ways. So we're still also looking at how we integrate that in for a next iteration of what this portal can be. But for now, we wanted to make sure that there was at least an easier way to navigate all these different questions that people may have as they're looking at different types of education and employment supports. And we've got great resources from a state perspective to be able to support that. So wanted everybody to be able to just have a quick walkthrough of what's on this portal here so that you feel comfortable, again, being able to not only help somebody else walk through some of the different pieces or train other organizations so that they can help walk individuals through these different pieces. So I'm gonna stop sharing that piece right there and go back to this piece here. So we talked through the online portal, which has a bulk of the pieces that we wanted to make sure that we mentioned. Now if I can, there we go. So I talked a little bit before about different materials we're going to provide for different audiences. A lot of what we just discussed of the portal and the Workforce Ready Grant has to do with serving individuals who are looking for education and employment opportunities. And we also have some resources that are available for employers as well. Again, many of you are familiar with the employer training grant that's a part of Next Level Jobs, and that serves as a reimbursable format for being able to provide employers with some finances to support training efforts that they've put in place to either bring on a new hire or to move an existing employee into a higher paying position as a result of training that they are providing. And that is, again, in our high wage, high demand industries, the top 5 that we talked about before, as well as agriculture, that wanted to get some assistance to those employers who are helping move individuals into some of those next steps of either employment or a higher wage as a result of training. Previously, those levels were set at $5,000 per individual, and that was capped at $50,000 per employer. That has now been doubled so that it is $10,000 of reimbursable training dollars per individual that's being trained, and then it's capped at $100,000 per employer. And so this is, again, this is a temporary increase because all of these dollars are coming from our CARES Act money to be able to carry forth these different efforts. And so we'll do those until we don't have access to those resources any longer, of which we have $50 million that are going towards these different components. And I want to make sure to point out that with the employer training grant, $5 million of those are being set aside specifically for minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. And so we want to make sure that we are proactively reaching out to businesses that are in those categories to ensure that they're able to take advantage of these different resources. And the process for application is still the same as before, of just going to nextleveljobs.org. Pretty simple process for any employer to fill out that application and work their way through getting approved for the training grants. And I've heard from a number of employers that it was pretty painless for them. It's designed to be painless so that it is quick access to these different types of supports. Just then a reminder that that's so nextleveljobs.org is where that application process starts. We have additional resources that can support our employers that you may have heard about through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. And so there is a Small Business Restart Fund that goes towards assisting small businesses, particularly those who were not eligible through the Paycheck Protection Program or the PPP. Then there again, there's $5 million of those resources that have been set aside specifically for minority and women-owned businesses. There's the PPE marketplace for businesses that are having difficulty accessing some of the PPE that they may need to be able to bring employees back in. And there's also a very exciting partnership with the Indiana Black Expo to increase awareness amongst our minority businesses to be able to connect into some of these resources. And there's actually been additional funding provided directly to the Indiana Black Expo to help raise awareness across their 12 chapters statewide to be able to serve the individuals within the Black community, particularly employers in the Black community, to be able to access some of these different supports. And again, that ties back to a lot of those numbers that I talked about at the very beginning of seeing very disproportionate impacts that people have had across this economic crisis. And so it's critical that we are being very mindful of reaching out to a wide array of partners and being intentional to ensure that we are reaching to all those who need the support. And so wanted to ensure that we are getting that information out. We have other partners who are assisting with these elements. The Indiana Chamber of Commerce has some different resources as a part of their Institute for Workforce Excellence. So they've got some webinars that are available, and these are available to anyone that then wants to access them on their website. Some mental health resources that are available through that Wellness Council of Indiana. We know that a lot of businesses that have had internships have really struggled with what those internships are going to look like for the summer or for the foreseeable future. And so there's assistance in how to be able to navigate some of those waters and being able to match up with different types of interns. If you've had to rethink some of the process that you had previously, Ivy Tech has multiple fantastic resources, not only through their 10K initiative, where they're offering free courses and short-term training to 10,000 individuals, which may go even beyond that. And Ivy Tech, their community college employer resource page, has a whole host of different resources that are available to employers as well. So we wanted to make sure that, again, as easy to navigate these things as possible so that everybody knows where to go to get this information. We talked a little bit about the PowerPoint that we will provide overall. So we're going to provide you not only with this presentation that I've been sharing today, but we'll have a sample version for you to be able to utilize to walk through some of these different resources. You can consider, adding then your local resources and any data that's specific, and we'd be happy to help you identify any specific data for your county, for your region, however that may need to look, that if you need some assistance in that area. We would also encourage adding local addresses or phone numbers so that then, particularly for those who may not have internet access, that then they have a touch point, a step to be able to take that doesn't necessarily require going to the website. yournextstepin.org certainly is a wealth of information, and it may be that it's bringing somebody to be able to kind of walk through some of those steps with a public type of computer to walk through those pieces, but they may not have any kind of device themselves to be able to do that. So including telephone numbers, things of that nature, I think can be really helpful in encouraging folks to think about some tech agnostic types of outreach efforts overall and connection points. We are happy to be a resource to anyone, and not only happy, like we'd love to be able to be of assistance so that then, if you would like to have us be a part of doing a webinar, doing some sort of training session, please let us know. If you want to do it yourself, then that's where we wanted to provide you with all of these different pieces to be able to utilize them as you see fit for kind of different audiences that you're serving. Wanted to make sure that you've got a touch point, so you've got that email address that will be, like I said, monitored by multiple individuals, so that then if there are lots of questions that come in or feedback that comes in, that we want to be as responsive as we can to that. I included Rachel's Ajax cell phone number. Rachel is the Chief of Staff for the Career Connections and Talent. And so if it's easier for you to just text somebody a quick question or thoughts about things, then please feel free to use that cell phone number there. And we are more than happy to even just sit in if it's maybe for a first training session, and then you want to handle it after that, however that may work best for you. And we'd also really, really appreciate your feedback as to how conversations go along the way. That we want this to really be a dialogue. And so many of you that we are interacting with here today, we've gotten to know over the years. Some of you we have not just yet. And so we don't want this to be, hey, we're just putting a bunch of information out and we want you to help us share it. We really do hope that you can do that so that then it's connecting individuals up to those resources. But we want this to be a dialogue. We want this to be a conversation that as you're getting feedback from those individuals that you're serving, if there are pieces that we need to understand differently, struggles that people are facing with, whether it's any of the tools that we're trying to provide, barriers that you're coming across, that it would be helpful for us to know, to then be able to think about how we can remove some of those barriers, then we can't know any of those things if we don't get to hear from you. And so we would really appreciate any feedback that you can send either to that email address. You can text it to the cell phone number that I just gave you for Rachel. You can, whatever is easiest overall, you can send it to me. That we really value your feedback and are asking for that feedback. And so we'll be taking some steps along the way too to see kind of how different resources are getting utilized to ensure that we are reaching as broad of an audience as we can, and paying particular attention to communities who have been impacted at disproportionate levels to ensure that we are getting these resources and connection points out as best as possible, and getting that feedback on how we can do better on serving alongside each of you. So I mentioned, and Gina mentioned at the beginning, that we have this link to a sort of a registration type of spreadsheet that we're trying to keep, and that's really for us to be able to have contact information to get you all of these tools, the handouts, the social media toolkit, the webinar information, sample invitation language, talking points, the PowerPoint, all of those things that we're going to include in the toolbox. We want to be able to send those to you as a follow-up. We're going to make them publicly available as well. It's, again, we're building the airplane as it's going down the runway a bit, and so we don't have them to be able to share just yet, but we are wanting to get this information out to you so that you can hopefully start having these conversations. The timing of all of this effort is really, really critical, not only because we know people are hurting right now, and we want to make sure that we're getting them connected up to resources now to help take that next step. We also know that there are different timelines that are coming up for individuals that are going to have a fairly large impact. For individuals that are receiving the additional $600 of unemployment insurance support through some of the federal legislation that's been provided, that is going to run through the end of July. We're not aware of any kind of extension that may be added on to that, so we're anticipating that will come to an end at the end of July. So for individuals who may be making decisions around whether or not they're going back to work right now because they have access to these resources, we're really trying to encourage them to think about, well, if you've got access to those resources now, take advantage of this time to be able to access some kind of training supports or educational components, so that then, when come the end of the time period that you're going to have access to some of those resources, then hopefully you'll be further along a path to having a credential that can move an individual into potentially a higher paying position that may have eliminated making that kind of a decision for that person in the first place. So there are some looming calendar elements that are really also driving the efforts here as well. The other piece being that with these CARES Act dollars, then they do need to be spent by the end of this year. And so there is a fierce urgency to be able to connect individuals up with what assistance and the opportunity that these resources can provide from an education and employment standpoint. So that is why we said, well, let's not wait to have a train the trainer type of webinar until we've got all these things finalized. Let's at least get this information out, get people moving on it, ask you to help us get this information, and we'll keep working as all these different pieces are coming forward. We will also provide a recording of this webinar for anybody that may want to connect up via this format, and that may be easiest for them, so that you'll have access to that. So hopefully folks have been filling out that chat box, or filling out the link that was provided in the chat box. I think it's important that you not just hear kind of how this could work from me, but also to hear from a partner who has already started thinking a little bit about some of these things. And so I'm actually going to ask for Kate Lee from up in South Bend to share a little bit around kind of how you see being able to connect up with these different types of resources, and how you see this working for your organization and for the region as a whole. So I'm going to pivot to Kate for a moment, and for those who haven't yet filled out the spreadsheet, please continue to do so. And Kate, I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Blair. Thanks to Blair and her team for understanding that, like, this can't just be something that happens in Indianapolis. We have to figure out how to get these fingers out across the state to all of our citizens and our employers, and figure out how to get that message so we can kind of rapidly deploy the message so that people can actually get back to work and get the training they need. So when this originally came up and Blair was talking about it on the first call where I heard about it, I was thinking about how in our community, in the South Bend region, during this COVID crisis, we worked really hard to make sure we're getting consistent, aligned messaging out. And we've been using the food box distribution, because we're trying to get to the hardest hit people who are having trouble meeting just their basic needs. So to make sure they know to call 211 and where their resources are. So the model is kind of set in how to get the word out. And so I would recommend, like, to be thinking about who are the people that people trust, who are they going to go to and say, like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to find training or job or when it's going to come back. So I'm already thinking about faith leaders to have a conversation, specifically leveraging these slides, obviously, and the other resources to make sure it's consistent messaging, to talk to faith leaders about how they talk to their congregants who are coming to them and asking questions. Also, our elected officials. We have our township people, we have the local, our council members, and trying to talk to them, because I think that's where people go for answers. They want the people who they count on to help them. So elected officials. Also, neighborhood centers is something that I've had on my mind. We have lots of neighborhood centers, particularly in South Bend, and our food pantries, because a lot of the distribution of materials we're getting out as far as resources has been going out that way as well. And many people need it in print. So as kind of our structure for COVID communications, we've started a Google Drive, and then we send out every other week, we do a flyer that kind of summarizes the information, so that if our council members wanted to print that, so they have it to give to people who may not have access to computers, they can do that. Also, our library is a great partner in all of this kind of work, and they have a huge email list. So leveraging the library and getting them trained on how to answer these questions as well. So I really love the train the trainer model, and all of us being deployed. There's over 100 people on this call. It feels like we could cover like every region, perhaps get our fingers into every county, and really hit those people who need to know that this support is out there for them. I think Blair mentioned the basic needs are a huge issue right now. So some people just are lacking the capacity to think to the other side of this. But if we can wrap around them with the people they trust and encourage them to say, you may even come out better on the other side of this if we do this right, because you have access to training that you might not have had without this. And particularly for, I think, in our region, hospitality and retail workers have been really hard hit. And what career can we talk to them about to gently pivot them into something that is more dependable? And you can look at the high demand, high wage jobs and talk to them about where could you go that is a little, if this, you know, whatever happens next, it's just going to do better. And you're going to have room for growth that you may not have in another industry. So being able to empower the people that people trust to have those conversations with them, I think is really important. So I hope that is helpful. You know your communities better than anybody else. So you just have to go out and figure out who are people asking for help and make sure they know the answers and that everybody's kind of getting the same answer as opposed to 6,000 different answers. So thanks, Blair.
Thanks so much, Kate. And I really appreciate what you just said there at the very end of, you all know your communities at best. And so that's where we're really hoping that you can help us get this information to those trusted organizations who are helping serve individuals, answer those critical questions that they're asking right now, as well as think about, you know, how are they going to connect up with resources to be on a path towards greater economic opportunity and educational opportunity and all of the things that come along with that. So really appreciate that.
Can I jump back in real quick? Because of course, what I did forget on my list was employers. So also doing sessions as a person who works at the chamber, to do sessions for employers so they understand how they can have that conversation with either displaced workers or workers they have that they need to pivot into new roles that have evolved. I keep thinking everybody's suddenly realized how much they need an IT person, right? To help with the remote work and answer all those questions. And who's going to be the Zoom expert on staff, right? Like there are some roles that are going to emerge out of this, and we need to be ready to help employers get people some cross training so that they can respond to those needs as well. So there's different prongs that we have to just educate everyone. How hard can it be, right?
I always love your positive attitude. And that's what all of this work takes is knowing that we have resources to be able to connect people up with opportunity and to be able to help connect through to that next step. Because another thing is that we know there's a lot of anxiety that people have felt over the last few months and still feel for what the next few months are going to hold. Understandably, there's a lot of things that we don't know yet at this point, but there are many more things that we do know. And so can we assist individuals with helping mitigate some of that anxiety, because we do have some resources that are available to help connect them to answer some of those immediate questions, as well as move into getting some additional training to move into a career field that could turn out to be, as Kate mentioned, you know, something greater than a position that they were in before. So wanted to make sure we provide all of that to everyone. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point. And I'm actually going to have to jump off at the moment to be able to head up to have another engagement that wish me luck, that it is my first in-person engagement with some folks. And so we'll see how some of that experience goes at this point. But we have many team members who are on the line here who want to be able to help answer questions that anybody may have. And again, I can't thank you all enough for the work that you are doing, for taking some time this morning to be a part of this discussion. And I'm going to go ahead and anticipate that you're going to send us feedback afterwards around kind of how these conversations are going, and if there's more information that we can be providing you, any tweaks that we should be considering to different resources that we're providing, in whatever variety of or form that those may take, that we need that feedback from you to know how we can continue serving individuals and our businesses and all of our organizations. So thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Gina to help facilitate any further questions and answer period that folks may have, and greatly appreciate everybody taking some time this morning. So thank you.
Thank you, Blair, and thank you to everyone that joined us today. And we will go ahead and keep the line open for a few minutes so you can ask questions in the chat box of the state team. Please sign up in the form so you're sure to get the information that's going to follow up. And we really appreciate everyone joining us today. So thank you.